So Monsanto is desperately trying to make sure that you never find out what's in your food. Specifically, they don't want you to find out when you're buying or eating GMOs. And they're so desperate to do this because they know that nobody wants to buy their product. People only buy GMOs accidentally. They're so desperate that they have influenced the Senate and Congress to pass the DARK Act. Now, the DARK Act means it's denying your right to know what is in your food. Now, they call it, I don't know, the Safe and Accurate Labeling Act or something like that. It's really the DARK Act. It would outlaw state-level GMO labeling mandates, such as the one that was passed in Vermont. Now, the Vermont law kicks in July 1st of this year, 2016. And so the U.S. Congress is being strong-armed by Monsanto, or influenced, or paid off, or whatever you want to call it. Bribed is probably a better term, to hurry up and pass the DARK Act to outlaw GMO labeling nationwide so that no one has any idea whether they're eating GMOs or not. This is how evil the GMO industry is. They say on one hand, oh, GMOs are so wonderful that they're going to feed the world and they're all so good for you and perfectly safe. And on the other hand, but we don't want anybody to know that you're eating them. Well, if they're so good for you and so wonderful and so nutritious and so safe, wouldn't they want to put made with extra GMOs on the label? I mean, wouldn't they be happy to put GMOs on the label? Now, with 25% more GMOs, hurry up and eat it. Feed the world, starting with yourself. That's what the label should be on the GMO box of cereal or infant formula, and whatever it happens to be, corn tortillas. Yeah, feed the world, starting with you. Buy more GMOs. So this industry is so evil and so arrogant and so anti-science. They hate science. They hate environmental scientists. They hate food contamination scientists like myself, who test foods for chemical contaminants and heavy metals. They hate real science. In fact, they can't stand for any real scientific debate. The only thing they can do is buy off the lawmakers to censor the truth about what's in your food. That is how they really feel about their GMOs. They know they're toxic. They know that they're selling poison. They know they're selling cancer. They know they're selling infertility and digestion problems and stomach problems and organ problems and organ failure, for that matter. They know that the people know, and thus the only way they can get away with this is to hide their toxic products inside other food products and make sure that no one anywhere in the country can label it accurately. That is their full intention. That's the only thing they're interested in. This is the opposite of scientific transparency. And it's no surprise, it's the same people who, after they were busted with their emails going public, showing that they were receiving money from Monsanto, bribe money essentially, these same people argued, well, science shouldn't be subjected to public scrutiny. It should all happen in a black box. Science should be secret, they said. Really, this is what they argued, that science should be secret. The public shouldn't have a right to know how science is conducted because it's too technical for the public, and thus it has to be done all in secret, and all the money that changes hands has to be done in secret as well, and the scientific methodology should all be secret, and the results should be secret. Basically, you should just shut up and eat their damn GMOs and stop trying to think about it, because they say you're too stupid to understand what GMOs are. That's the only reason you're afraid of them. If you were smart, then you would just hand over the global seed supply to this corporate monopoly and you wouldn't worry about it anymore because they have your best interests in mind. Yes, they do. And they demonstrate this by suing farmers whose crops are contaminated with the genetic pollution from GMO crops that are blown by the wind into the fields of farmers that are trying to produce organic crops. Now their organics are all contaminated. So what happens? Well, Monsanto sues the farmers. Says, you're stealing our intellectual property, you see. That's how insane this whole thing has become. So your help is needed. I need you to pick up the phone, call your senator. Don't just send an email. Don't just sign a petition, although there's nothing wrong with that. There's a good petition right now at gmofreeusa.org. Again, that's gmofreeusa.org. There's another petition at fooddemocracynow.org. That's also good. There's a petition there about telling Hillary Clinton to stop taking money from Monsanto to run for president. That could be useful. Yeah, believe me, Monsanto is really hoping that Hillary Clinton wins this election because she's the bride of Frankenfood. She's their secret weapon. And she's obviously immune to all prosecution, can commit any crimes, any treasonous acts, any violations of national security whatsoever, never gets prosecuted. So if she becomes president, well, it's going to be Monsanto on every plate. Every child will be raised on Monsanto foods, and none of you will have any right to know what you're eating. Believe me, the president, if it's President Hillary Clinton, will veto anything that says GMOs should be labeled. Now, Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, even though I didn't want to get into politics too much on this, but just for the record, Bernie Sanders is the opposite of that. I think he would hammer Monsanto hard. He would probably demand GMO labeling. And by the way, Donald Trump is pro-organic. He's actually into organic food, and there's a pretty good chance, although it's not proven yet, there's a pretty good chance that he would also be a thorn in the side of Monsanto, so to speak. Whereas other candidates like Ted Cruz, from Texas, probably all pro-Monsanto, Texas A&M, more chemicals, that's probably his stance, although we're not sure yet. No one has apparently been able to elicit this answer from him. But he's not going to win anyway. It's probably going to be Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. So on the issue of GMOs, your only choice, sadly, in that standoff is Trump. It would be much better if we had like Donald Trump versus Bernie Sanders. Then both candidates might be anti-establishment against Monsanto. But sadly, that doesn't seem to be the case. Anyway, enough politics. Getting back to the Dark Act, I need you to pick up the phone. I need you to call your senator. And don't just send an email. Don't just do a petition. Actually call them and tell them you oppose the Dark Act, that you support GMO labeling. You want to know what's in your food. Did you know that every time a citizen calls up a senator, that in that office, they count that for like 100,000 people's opinion? In other words, you make one phone call, it has the voice, the weight of 100,000 people in your state. So if you just make one phone call, you're speaking for like 100,000 people and telling your senator that you don't want them to support the Dark Act. So just pick up the phone and call them. It's so easy. Here's the number, 202-224-3121. Just call 202-224-3121 and ask for your senator. If you don't even know who your senator is, just tell them what state you're from, and then the switchboard operator will know. If you don't know who your senator is, we're all in trouble then. So hopefully you know who your senator is. Anyway, 202-224-3121, and talk to your senator's office, or, both of them, if you want, and tell them what you think. Tell them that you oppose the Dark Act. You think we have a right to know what we're eating. You want GMOs labeled, and you don't want your senator taking more money from Monsanto to censor honest food labeling, which would prevent people from knowing what they're eating. It's not just the GMOs, the genetic modification, it's also the glyphosate that's often sprayed on genetically modified crops. Glyphosate has been categorized by the World Health Organization's IARC as a probable carcinogen, which means it probably causes cancer. And let me tell you, the word probable will soon be replaced with definitely. It definitely causes cancer. Glyphosate causes cancer. It also interferes with mineral nutrition of plants and people. And it destroys soil microbes. It can destroy entire orchards by destroying the soil quality. It is a mass poisoning of our planet, and especially of our agricultural centers in our world. The croplands, if you will, that are feeding the world are being poisoned and killed, in essence, by glyphosate, which is sprayed on many GMO crops, especially soybeans. Yep, Roundup Ready soybeans, glyphosate-resistant soybeans, GMO soybeans, creating your soybean oil that is in your non-organic salad dressing that you're buying at the grocery store that says, it's made with olive oil, but it's actually mostly genetically modified soybean oil if you look at the label. So be on the lookout for that. In any case, the Dark Act it's the ultimate arrogance of corrupt government. This is fascism, food fascism. It is a deliberate attempt to silence accurate labeling, to keep consumers in the dark, which is why we call it the Dark Act. And it's an attempt to use the power of government to silence the people in order to protect the financial interests of a powerful corporation that many people consider to be the most evil corporation in human history, and that is Monsanto. Absolute evil. The most evil corporation that I have ever encountered. Incredibly arrogant, incredibly malicious in their operations. And they want to control the world's seed supply to dominate and monopolize the food while they're feeding you poison and suing farmers and mandating that farmers buy their glyphosate instead of off-the-shelf glyphosate. They actually force farmers to buy this toxic chemical from them. This is such a nefarious operator, an anti-humanity, anti-life, anti-ecosystem, an entity that, from my point of view, appears to want to destroy all life as we know it, as long as they are making quarterly profits in the process. It is the absolute expression of corporate evil run amok. And if your senator votes with this corporate entity, then your senator will be voting to silence science, to keep you, the consumer, in the dark, and to poison their constituents with toxic, cancer-causing chemicals in the food. Now, there are some senators that are so far gone, like Pat Roberts of Kansas, so far gone down the rat hole of evil that they are probably not able to be reached by anyone other than, check writers for Monsanto, if you will. So Pat Roberts probably is going to burn in hell for mass poisoning humanity, and there's not much you can do about it. But there are some other senators that you might be able to reach, and so I encourage you right now to pick up that phone, call that number, 202-224-3121, and tell your senator that you oppose the Dark Act, that you support GMO labeling, and that you don't want your senator to sell you out to Monsanto. Just say it however you want to say it, whatever your feelings are, whatever your views are on the matter. You call them up and you say it, because if you don't, then they're going to think that they can just steamroll over you and pass any law they want that is desired by the biotech corporate entities. So you better make your voice heard now, or you're going to get censored in terms of labels. You won't be able to tell if you're buying GMOs or not. Now, here's a final bit of advice, and I'm going to wrap this up. If you buy organic is supposed to be non-GMO. And it's true. It's mostly non-GMO. It's not 100% non-GMO. There is about 0.5% GMO content currently allowed under the non-GMO organic standard, to my knowledge. I think it's 0.5%. The Non-GMO Project Verified, I believe, allows up to 0.9%. I may be wrong on that number. It might also be around 0.5. It's definitely under 1%. But just to be scientifically accurate, when we say non-GMO, it is not 100% non-GMO, because the pollution of GMO plants is so horrible today that it has polluted every field almost on the planet. So you can't even get 100% non-GMO anymore unless you grow it yourself. And even then there might be some pollution that blows in, from the wind. So you're aiming for the least amount of GMOs that you can possibly get, which means buying organic. And if you buy organic, You're getting food that is more nutritious, has more mineral content. You're getting food that is not sprayed with pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and other toxic chemicals, and food that is not genetically modified. So if you ever needed a reason to buy organic, this is it. Buy organic, and you can be sure that that is essentially non-GMO. Of course, you can also grow your own food, which is the way I recommend doing it. Go to foodrising.org for my Food Rising Grow System that I invented. Shows you how to grow your own food for pennies. Dirt cheap, gravity fed, non-electric, EMP proof, no pumps, no soil, no weeding. Very simple system. Grow your own food. Foodrising.org. You can also buy that system, by the way, at supplysource.com if you want to buy one already made. Supplysource.com is that. But anyway, that's a side note. The main thing is call your senator. And again, that number, oops, let me get it again. That number is, let's see, 202-224-3121. Call your senator at that number and tell them you oppose the Dark Act. If they pass this Dark Act, we are all screwed because Monsanto wins. They will hide their GMOs in foods from here forward, and no state will be able to enforce any GMO labeling law no matter what they pass at the state level, because the federal government will be running food labeling tyranny, basically a food fascism police state that criminalizes any states, or I should say nullifies any states that try to require GMO labeling at the state level. So we need your help on this one. Otherwise, you're going to be eating mystery black box GMO food forever, which is not going to be in your interest, believe me. All right. Spread the word. Spread this video or audio wherever you're seeing it. Check out my website, naturalnews.com, and my scientific laboratory where we analyze foods for contamination. You can find that at labs.naturalnews.com, and you can catch my podcast at healthrangerreport.com. Thanks for listening, and help us defeat the Dark Act so that we can require mandatory GMO labeling and then eventually move to a GMO ban entirely. We got a lot of bans that we need to be working on together. We got to ban GMOs. We got to ban glyphosate. We have to ban patents on these corporate seeds. Seeds should belong in the public domain, not belong to corporations, and so on. We have a lot of areas where we need to make some progress, and we're only going to be able to do that together. So spread the word about this, and thank you for listening. My name's Mike Adams. I'm the Health Ranger, one of the world's leading clean food activists, and the editor of naturalnews.com. Thanks for listening. Click subscribe now to stay informed when I release new videos.